Kursk, July 1943. A Soviet T-34 commander spots movement 2 kilometers across the open steppe. He raises his binoculars and freezes. It's not a tiger. The silhouette is wrong. Lower, sleeker, with a long gun that looks disturbingly familiar. Then he sees another, and another. Dozens of them, advancing in formation. These are Panthers, Germany's newest tank, and they're about to make their combat debut in the largest tank battle in history. Within hours, Soviet tankers would learn what German engineering could do when it copied your best ideas and made them deadlier. The Panther tank was born from desperation and humiliation. When Operation Barbarossa kicked off in June 1941, German Panzer crews expected easy victories. Instead, they met the T-34A Soviet medium tank that outclassed every German tank on the battlefield. Its sloped armor bounced shells like pebbles. Its wide tracks handled mud and snow that bogged down German panzers. Its 76mm gun could kill German tanks from ranges they couldn't match. For the first time, Germany faced a tank crisis. Their entire armored doctrine was obsolete. Hitler's response was radical. Study the T-34, copy its revolutionary features, and build something even better. German engineers tore apart captured T-34s, analyzed every angle of armor, every mechanical component. What emerged in 1943 was the Panther, officially the Panzerkampfwagen 5. It combined Soviet sloped armor design with German optical precision, a powerful 75mm high-velocity gun, and engineering that pushed the limits of wartime manufacturing. At 45 tons, it was technically a medium tank, but it fought like a heavy, and it became the benchmark every Allied tank was measured against. This is the story of imitation turned to perfection, and how Germany's answer to the T-34 became one of the most respected and feared tanks of World War II. So too, before the Panther, there was panic. Summer 1941. German Panzer divisions rolled deep into Soviet territory, confident in their tactical superiority. Then came the encounters with T-34s, and the reports sent back to Berlin were borderline hysterical. German tankers described a Soviet tank that seemed immune to their guns. The 37mm and 50mm anti-tank guns that had dominated Poland and France were useless. Shells hit the T-34's sloped frontal armor and simply ricocheted. Meanwhile, the T-34's 76mm gun destroyed German Panzer IIIs and IVs with ease. The T-34's sloped armor was revolutionary. Instead of vertical plates, Soviet designers angled the armor at 60 degrees, effectively doubling its thickness against incoming rounds. German engineers had always preferred thick, flat armor, easier to manufacture, simpler to maintain. But the T-34 proved that geometry mattered as much as thickness. Combined with wide tracks that distributed weight and allowed mobility in mud and snow, the T-34 was a wake-up call. Germany's tank advantage had evaporated overnight. In November 1941, a special commission was formed. Captured T-34s were shipped to testing grounds and dissected. German engineers were ordered to design a response fast. The initial plan was literally to copy the T-34 and put it into German production. But German industry couldn't replicate Soviet manufacturing shortcuts. The T-34 was deliberately simple, designed for mass production by unskilled labor. German factories demanded precision. So instead of a direct copy, they decided to create a hybrid. Soviet concepts meets German engineering excellence. The result was the VK-3002, which would become the Panther. It borrowed the T-34's sloped armor philosophy, added a high-velocity 75mm gun far superior to the Soviet 76mm, installed advanced optics and fire control systems, and wrapped it in German mechanical complexity. It was more expensive, harder to build, and required skilled crews. But when it worked, it was devastating. The Panther wasn't just an upgraded tank, it was a complete rethinking of armored warfare. Its frontal armor was 80 mm thick, sloped at 55 degrees, giving it effective protection equivalent to 140 mm of vertical armor. That made it nearly immune to most Allied anti-tank guns from the front. The side armor was thinner, only 40 mm, but still sloped, a calculated risk to keep weight manageable. At 45 tons, the Panther was fast for its size, capable of 34 mm on roads, faster than the 56-ton Tiger. But the real killer was the gun. The 75 mm WWII 42L70 was one of the most powerful tank guns of the war. Its long barrel gave it extraordinary muzzle velocity and penetration. At 1,000 meters, it could punch through 120 mm of armor, enough to destroy any Allied tank from the front at combat range. Paired with German Zeiss optics and range-finding equipment, Panther crews could identify and kill targets at distances where Allied tankers couldn't even see them clearly. It was sniper-level precision in a 45-ton package. Inside, the Panther had a 5-man crew: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and radio operator. The turret was spacious compared to earlier German tanks, allowing the crew to work efficiently. The commander had a cupola with periscopes giving 360-degree vision. The gunner had stereoscopic rangefinders. Everything was designed for one purpose: see the enemy first, shoot first, kill first. In tank versus tank combat, the Panther established dominance through superior gunnery and armor protection. Production began in early 1943, rushed to meet the demands of the Eastern Front. The first Panthers were plagued with mechanical problems: engines caught fire, transmissions failed, final drives broke under stress. Teething problems are normal, but the Panther was thrown into combat at Kursk before these issues were resolved. Many broke down before even reaching the battlefield. Yet those that made it into combat proved their worth immediately. When they worked, they were unstoppable. Despite its battlefield superiority, the Panther had fatal weaknesses. It was mechanically complex and required constant maintenance. The Maybach engine was powerful, but temperamental. The interleaved road wheel suspension, designed to distribute weight and improve ride quality, packed with mud and froze solid in Russian winters. Mechanics had to remove outer wheels just to replace inner ones, a process that could take hours in the field. Final drive failures were common, leaving Panthers immobilized even when undamaged by enemy fire. Fuel consumption was another nightmare. The Panther guzzled gasoline, getting less than 1 mile per gallon cross-country. Germany was desperately short on fuel. Panthers that could dominate any battle were abandoned on roadsides, out of gas, blown up by their own crews to prevent capture. Allied air superiority made daytime movement suicidal. Panthers that survived enemy tanks often fell victim to Allied fighter bombers, P-47, Thunderbolts, and Typhoons. Armed with rockets that could penetrate top armor, Allied tankers learned tactics to counter the Panther's advantages. Never engage from the front, flank if possible. Use numerical superiority, send multiple Shermans from different angles. Call in artillery or air support. The Panther's thin side and rear armor were vulnerable. A Sherman's 75 mm gun couldn't penetrate the front, but a side shot at close range could kill it. Soviet tactics were even more brutal. Mass T-34 attacks, overwhelming Panthers through sheer numbers and accepting horrific losses in the process. By late 1944, Germany produced about 6,000 Panthers, total impressive, but nowhere near enough. Shermans numbered over 50,000. T-34s exceeded 60,000. The Panther could win individual battles, but couldn't win the war. Every Panther lost was irreplaceable. Every crew killed took months of training with them. Germany was bleeding out, and the Panther, for all its superiority, couldn't stop it. The Panther's combat record remains legendary. In defensive battles, well-positioned Panthers inflicted devastating losses. At the Battle of the Bulge, German Panther battalions ambushed American columns, destroying dozens of Shermans in single engagements. Individual Panthers sometimes held off entire Allied companies, using superior range and armor to control kill zones. Even in defeat, the Panther earned grudging respect from opponents who faced it. After the war, several nations continued using captured Panthers. France operated them into the early 1950s. The Soviets tested them extensively, incorporating lessons into their own tank designs. American and British engineers studied every aspect, influencing post-war tank development. The Panther's combination of mobility, firepower, and protection became the template for modern main battle tanks. Sloped armor became standard. High-velocity guns became mandatory. The Panther's influence echoes in every tank designed since. Only a handful of Panthers survive today in museums. Tank Museum Bovington in England has a running example. The German Tank Museum in Munster displays several variants. Each one draws crowds of historians and enthusiasts who recognize the Panther as a masterpiece of desperate innovation, a weapon born from copying the enemy and making it better. The Panther never saved Germany. It came too late, cost too much, and broke down too often. But in the history of armored warfare, it remains one of the finest tanks ever built. A predator that dominated battlefields until fuel, numbers, and time ran out. Germany copied the T-34, then created something even the Soviets had to respect. And for 3 brutal years, the Panther proved that sometimes the best weapon is the one you steal from your enemy and perfect.